Tonight, we have some fundamentalist fuckwittery, and we don't do this very often, but sometimes we have a repeat offender. And if you go back to episode 9 of the God Squad pod, back from August of 2024, it's the first time that Doug Wilson was featured as the representative of fundamentalist fuckwittery. And he's in the news again because he sat down with Layla Fidel of National Public Radio in Moscow, Idaho. She is a reporter. She is a Muslim. She is a single childless woman. And I bet she had to go take about 5 showers to get the ick off after she sat down with him. I watched the entire 42-minute interview. And what I'm about to play is easily one of the most awful things you will hear a purported Christian ever say. And then we'll break it down on the other side. But this is Doug Wilson. Now, to remind those who are playing at home, he is the pastor. He is one of the founders of the Communion of Reformed Evangelical Churches. One of his acolytes is Brooks Pottinger, who is Pete Hegseth's pastor in Tennessee. Doug Wilson was invited by Hegseth to the Pentagon. Doug Wilson's Canon Press produces a bunch of homeschool materials and classical Christian education materials based on the hyper-conservative Calvinist model. Doug Wilson also founded a college where he trains ministers, although he has no theological degree himself. And he has created what is essentially a little fiefdom of Doug Wilson, Paleo-Confederate, as he calls himself. And he wrote
he's a self-confessed white Christian nationalist.
He's a self-confessed white Christian nationalist who says he's not a racist, but he says a lot of racist things. He says he's not a misogynist, but then hear what he's about to say. And as Kristen Dumais, who we're going to very fortunately have on the show at some point later this summer, said he lies on purpose because he thinks that anybody who's not in covenant with him, he can just lie to. And basically anybody who's not a hyper-Calvinist Christian nationalist. So he's hard to pin down sometimes. And I think that what you're about to see is him going to be trying to say things like plausible deniability. I'm not promoting rape culture. Listen to my words. Listen to his words. Because this is what he said. And it's a little bit long, so bear with me. But I think y'all have to hear this to believe it.
Now, you've talked about wanting patriarchy, and that's because you believe that men are supposed to protect women.
Provide and protect.
Provide and protect. But you also use words that don't feel Christian.
Okay.
Small-breasted biddies. You've spoken of the propriety of rape for women who reject patriarchy. So women who reject patriarchy, do they deserve protection?
Of course. So that phrase, propriety of rape, a number of those things are gathered from people taking arguments out of context. Let me give you the propriety of rape thing.
One consequence of rejecting the protection of good men is that you're opening yourself up to the predations of bad men. When they've walked away from the protections of fathers and brothers, what it amounts to is a tacit, implicit, in principle, not overt acceptance of the propriety of rape. This is from a 2016.
Correct. I'm not saying anything about the propriety of rape. What I'm saying is the women who do these things, they're the ones saying that. So if you refuse the protection of good men, then I'm saying you're the one asking for it.
Wow.
I'm pleading with you to stop asking for it. Provide and protect.
Provide and protect. But you also use words.
Oh, okay. All right. I don't know where we just went. D, get us back. The video cut off and started playing again. But you heard what the man said. If you don't submit to the hyper-patriarchal culture that I am demanding, then women, you are asking for it.
That's what it sounded like to me.
That is no different than saying, Look at how she was dressed. Look at what she drank that night. She was asking for it. Now, then he then goes on later in the video in that same clip, and he starts talking about a guy who drives his car to a bad part of town.